I'm Mary Obana. I help people get unstuck. We are all meant to have full joy, pure love, complete fulfillment, and peace. You know what else? Each of us has a light, a unique gift that we are to find and share with the world. It's why we're here. It's who we're meant to be. But sometimes we can get stuck. Join me as I work with Spirit to help people from all walks of life receive the messages they need to hear so they can understand what's standing in the way of all the joy, fulfillment, love, and peace they are meant to have so they can get on with a life they're meant to live so they can shine. Real people, real stories, starting now.
I always just worried about the money and put my joy to one side because I didn't think I could have both.
Hey there. Thanks for joining me today. Have you ever heard someone share with you what they'd really love to do, then follow it quickly with, yeah, I'll do that after, when I've made enough money. I'll get to it then. If you've ever postponed your joy to take a more practical path, a sensible job, a career that you felt would be more financially lucrative, this episode is for you. This is the story of Kate Mayer, a woman who spent the better part of her life making compromises, following the practical path to please her parents or to pay the bills. It wasn't until she listened to her heart, honored who she really was, and let her light shine that she got into alignment with the stream of well-being that was awaiting her, and true joy was found. It's my pleasure to introduce Kate Mayer. Hello, Kate. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, Mary. Thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, sure. So I am a mum, foremost. I have 2 boys and I live in London in the UK. I've been a designer for the majority of my career and I now refer to myself as an artist. So I've made a bit of a shift from design into art and I am very much enjoying that new
Wonderful
thing. Yeah.
Now, did you always know that art was your thing?
I think when I was very small, so when I was, it's the only thing I ever wanted to do when I was a kid. So I permanently had a pencil or a paintbrush in my hand and I was always sketching and I really, really, really enjoyed art at school and it was the thing that I felt made me shine. So, I mean, just, I know your book and everything is about finding the thing that makes you, that is your thing that shines. And I knew as a child that was my thing. I really did. And I really believed it. And I didn't hold on to it though, which I mean, everything happens for a reason and we have divine timing and everything like that. So I'm not going to say I regret it, but
yeah, what happened? How did you get away from it?
I mean, to some extent, school kind of encouraged it. So in the very early days of school, in the younger years, so like, you know, in the first few years of school where you're encouraged to play more and learn through play, I very much felt that my artistic self was being nurtured. And then we moved more into the kind of, okay, now things are getting serious and you need to study. And suddenly art wasn't a real subject anymore. Art was the plaything, not the thing that led you to a job.
Oh, interesting.
And that was, I think that attitude came both from school and also from my parents. So both my parents are in the medical profession. My dad's a doctor and my mum's a nurse. And that, I can't tell you how many times I heard, do something sensible. Art is a hobby. Art's not a job. Art's not something you get paid for. Right. Art's not going to pay the bills. You need to be sensible. You need to do something get a proper job, do a proper subject. So they pretty much forced me to take maths, physics, chemistry, A levels. And only if I took those three was I allowed to do art as an extra. So I don't know. I don't know how it works in America, but generally speaking, in the UK, kids take 3 A levels, and that's a lot of work. So to take 4 was even more work, and we also did general studies. So I actually took 5 A levels.
Oh gosh. So there really wasn't much room for the art.
No, but what
Yeah.
I did do, which my mom was not happy about, when I was struggling and I wasn't enjoying the chemistry and stuff. I really wasn't. And so I dropped chemistry. And then the teachers told me I was going to have to take something else. So I went and took photography instead. But I kind of forgot to tell my mum about that.
So convenient.
Which did not go down well on parents' evening when she came home. But I still knew that the essence of me was creative. I had to be creative. And I knew that if I followed the path they wanted me to take and I went and did medicine or something like that, that I would be miserable. You know, I just knew that would not light me up. It wouldn't, you know, and actually now in hindsight, I probably would have killed a lot of people as well, you know, because I think about all the mistakes I've made in life and in my career. And I think, God, if I had been a doctor, that would have been, that person would have been a goner right there.
So how old were you, Kate, when you came to that recognition? I mean, were you already at university or were you in high school? When did you kind of know that path of medicine or pre-med or whatever was not to be for you?
I think I always knew it. So I had this real struggle in my head. And I think partly because I was good at a lot of subjects and I got A's all the way through school. So my parents were like, but you can do anything you want. You can be anything. So you should be something important, like a doctor or a lawyer or something. Mm-hmm. And I always knew that I was a creative. That was the only thing I knew I wanted to do. And I absolutely knew that I didn't want to be a lawyer or anything like that. I mean, that would have killed my soul.
Right. So was there like a culminating conversation that you had with your parents, or was there some kind of point in your life where you kind of, you know, put the kind of stake in the ground and declared it, or was it kind of an evolutionary thing where you kind of snuck it in and continued to evolve with it?
I snuck it in, really. I mean, I think that parents' evening where my mum went to school and discovered that I dropped chemistry and taken photography, and then she went to the maths teacher and he said that I spent more time in the art room than I did in his classroom. And he actually said that the art teacher had a Svengali-like hold over me. And I always remember that quote. And it was just that was my happy place. And the only place I wanted to be was the art room. And I told my mum I was going to art college, and that was that. And I mean, my parents didn't actually pay for my education or give me any money. They didn't support me. So I had to work 2 jobs to get myself through university.
Wow. And was that because it was art, or was that just because of anything that would have been the case?
That was just because of the situation. My parents were divorced.
Okay, gotcha.
Mum didn't have the funds to support me, and my dad didn't want to support me. So it's just how it was. Yep. So I didn't have any guilt about the fact that I was, you know, spending my mum's money going against her will.
Right.
Because I was supporting myself, I thought I'm just going to do what I know I need to do.
Yeah, that's a gift in a way, isn't it? Having that, not having that guilt over you probably enabled you to make that choice freely, right? And that has its own,
yeah, absolutely. But I did compromise to some extent, because I didn't go and just be a fine artist, which is probably what I should have done. I should have just taken a pure art degree, but I had been brainwashed to the point where I didn't believe that would get me anywhere, or that I would be able to make a career of it.
Right. Back to the practical component.
Yeah,
right?
So I went practical, and I went and did a design degree instead, because I thought, well, that's, you know, I can apply that there are people, you get employed as a designer. And I
Right.
couldn't see anybody getting employed as an artist. So there was still that I'd been influenced hugely. And whilst I wasn't prepared to not be creative, I did allow myself to be sort of moved into
A
to
more
compromise.
practical version of that, or
Yeah.
expression of that. And how long did that last? How long did that last where you were kind of in that line of work?
Oh, so most of my career. So I've been a
Ah,
designer for 20 odd years, more than 20 years. So, and it was not an easy path by any means. It was, not the path of least resistance. And I felt like everything was an effort. Every job was out of the pan and into the fire. I was never really completely happy. I was never really completely in the zone.
right.
I did really well. I actually I ended up being a textile designer, which is not where I started, but that's another
Oh,
story. And I did love the textile design. And I think one of the reasons that I ended up going into that was because there was a lot of painting involved. So I did actually sit and paint flowers and
mm,
then turn them into a textile design. So to some extent, that was allowing me to still paint and apply that to a practical situation. And it was sort of like, here's the problem, here's the solution,
right.
kind of logical
Right.
thing. But I didn't really enjoy the fashion industry, and I wasn't particularly passionate about fashion. Some people are proper fashionistas and they can't wait for the catwalk shows to come out and all of that stuff. And if I really was being true and honest, I didn't care about that kind of,
Right.
I did it because it was part of the job, but it's not my passion.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Um,
Interesting. Interesting.
and I didn't. There was so it was still the job was. There were days when I would sit painting and think, "Oh my God, I'm so lucky. I love this job." And then there were other days when I'd think, "Get me out of here.
Right.
This isn't really where I want to be."
Okay. So what
And
so 20 years that went on, and then what happened that how did that next kind of component of evolution happen with your work? What was there a trigger? Because I know that's not what you do now. So what happened next?
so, well, there was a bit of a journey before I just kind of really came home. Well, I feel like I've come home,
Yeah.
and I was working for one of the UK's biggest retailers as their senior print designer. And I was there for 4 years, and I did 3 years on a rolling contract, and then I did a year on a fixed term contract on a mat cover. And when that contract came to an end, I made the decision that I didn't want to work in fashion anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I really didn't know what to do, and the panic set in of, I'm a single mom with 2 kids and a
Right.
mortgage, and I need to pay the bills. Oh my God, what am I going to do?
Right. Right.
And I tried various things, and when things just don't feel
Right.
aligned,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah. Yes, of course.
and you know, web design, marketing, things that basically other people were telling me, you'd be really good at this, you should do this.
Right.
And I tried all of these things, and I did do okay with them, but I just still didn't feel
Yeah. You
like,
knew in your soul it wasn't the thing,
yeah.
right?
I
Yeah.
think it's that thing of when you get up in the morning and you can't wait to get to work, and you'll work all night because you're enjoying it so much. I wanted
Right.
that feeling.
Right.
Anyway, then lockdown happened in the
Yeah.
UK in March, and I actually had started listening to Abraham Hicks some time before and Law of Attraction, but I hadn't really taken it very seriously. I hadn't really practiced it.
Uh-huh.
And I had a friend who is a Law of Attraction teacher.
Right.
And we had some conversations, and she said to me, "Do you know what, Kate? You're trying way too hard here. You're really efforting when you shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
And what you really, really need to do is just let go. don't worry about bills, don't worry about what job you should be doing, and just do something you love.
Right.
Just do, just think back, what's the thing that you love? And I just thought, you know what, I love painting, and I haven't properly painted for years, apart from at work, which doesn't count.
Right,
So,
exactly.
and then I thought back to being a teenager, and I used to paint portraits of my friends, and I used to be very much into life drawing, and I loved all of that. So I thought, well, perhaps I could paint my kids and, maybe see if I can do it still. So I painted my youngest son, and I put him on Facebook, and got this overwhelming response of, oh my gosh, it's Rudy, it's amazing. Oh wow, I didn't know you could do that. That's really, so many comments. And I thought, okay,
That's
it
giving me
obviously,
some information that I need to do
yeah,
something with.
that felt good.
Yeah.
That felt
Hmm.
good. That whole experience from start to finish felt good. And then I thought, well, I can't paint one of my children and not the other, because that's just, you just can't do that, right?
Right.
So then I painted my other son, and got a similar reaction to painting him. And then I thought to myself, well, I'm really, really enjoying this. I'm just really enjoying painting again. But I don't want to just paint for the sake that I need to kind of be inspired by something. And at the time, the whole COVID thing was really kicking off, and we were all very influenced by that.
Of
And
course.
I was struck by the fact that numbers on the news were not numbers, they were people, and various, things were happening in the UK, like people were stockpiling loo rolls, and
Right.
all the shelves were bare, and I was just watching all of this and thinking, oh my gosh, don't these people realize that these numbers are people, and
Right.
all you care about is whether you've got loo roll or not.
Right. Right.
And I just thought, all of these care workers who don't, we're all looking at the numbers thinking we just want to be able to go out, we just want to get our lives back, but
Right.
those numbers to other people represented, we've just lost our mum or our
Right.
sister, or and I just wanted to put a face to those numbers. I wanted those people to be recognized and seen. So I started painting the care workers who died in the UK, and the response from that, and I was posting them because I was trying to contact the families, because I didn't paint them for anything other than to donate them to the families and to try and bring some love and some joy in any small way to those people
Right.
who I knew were suffering so much. And I did manage to get in contact with quite a few of them, and they were so grateful, Mary. And I'm just sitting there going, but all I've done is paint.
Yeah. Right.
But
Right.
it really moved them that a stranger would take the time to honor their loved ones.
When you say that all I did was paint, it's funny because you talked about your shine. The thing about when we are using that light within us, and really, our lights are things that are so much a part of who we are, and it's something that we often discount,
Mm.
because it comes so easily to us. And yet, these things, when we do them, bring such joy to others. And it happens effortlessly. You talked about Abraham Hicks and about how,
Yeah.
it is about, if you just get into that, that momentum and that force of well-being, it's amazing what happens, right? And so what joy you are able to bring to these families, right? So amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it felt good, and it felt, worthwhile and everything else. But at the same time, it was really also deep. It was like, it
Of
wasn't an easy
course.
thing to do. And at some point, I just thought to myself, I need a bit of a break from this.
It was
And I
emotional for you. So
it
very,
was,
yeah.
it was very emotional. But I mean, it was, the funny thing was, when I painted them, I really did imagine them in life. So I could almost see them laughing, and I could really feel the people as I was painting them. And then I decided I wanted to just paint for myself a bit. And I'd always, I think this is again part of my upbringing. And my dad was all about perfection. So I got something like 9 A's and 2 B's in my GCSEs. And he just said to me, what happened to the 2 B's?
Right. All he could see was what wasn't, not what was. Right.
Yeah. And so with my art, I always tried to do things. And he also couldn't, he was a very logical person.
Mm-hmm.
So he wouldn't understand abstract art, but he would understand figurative art.
Right.
So to gain some sort of
Validation from him or,
validation,
yeah.
appreciation, whatever you want to call it from
Yeah.
him, I really strove to paint and draw as accurately as possible,
Right.
so that I could really reflect something in accurate detail. And I became very, very good at that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but after I had this time of painting, and also I was listening to Abraham Hicks every day, and I was going out for my walks, and I was going through the woods, and I was really connecting. I felt I was really connecting back with source energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd always tried in the past to paint abstract, but I could never do it. I couldn't. And
Really?
it looked like yeah, and it looks like the easiest thing in the world, but actually it's not, because when you paint something representationally, there are a set of rules that you follow. The light and the dark, the quality of your lines, you know, the angle of the lines, that there are rules.
Right.
If you don't follow the rules, it's not going to look like the thing that you want it to look like. If you follow the rules, it will look like that thing.
Right.
Abstract, there are no rules.
Right.
There are no rules. So, I mean, obviously you can be, you know, you understand color and things like that, and what this color might not, how it's going to look next to a different color and stuff like that. But abstract comes from something else, somewhere else. Abstract kind of has to come from source. I really believe that. I think it's a different thing. It's intuitive, whereas it's a different skill.
You're using a different part of you, right? To be, it's not so much your brain, I would imagine. It's more of your kind of intuition.
Yeah, you feel it, you don't think it.
Right.
So I guess that's the difference. It's the other one is more thinking about exactly what color you're going to put where, whereas so I just had this moment of real, I don't know whether you'd call it clarity or what you would call it, but I ordered some canvases and I put them on the floor, and I mixed up some paints, and I just let it flow, and I couldn't believe what came out. I was just like, gosh. Oh, wow. And it felt amazing. And I just thought, I can't believe I've just created those things, and they came so easily. And wow. I don't know where they came from. I kept thinking I don't know where they came from, but I do know where they came from.
Of course.
They came from me tuning back into
who you really are.
Who I really am. Yeah. And finally just letting go of all of that stuff that I gathered over those years, all of those beliefs and those, you know,
all the stories and all the expectations and all the things the external world, right, imposes on you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
And I still have to slightly remind myself when I go to paint not to think. Don't think about it. Just let it flow. Just it's there. It comes through me more than anything. It's not something that I have to force or to think about. And whenever I do that, like, oh my gosh, I've got to do a painting today, and I try and force it, it just doesn't work.
Right.
And I'm never happy with it. And
that's interesting.
And the pieces that come out the best are effortless. Absolutely effortless, and they're a joy to do.
So, and then when you get into that place, what do? Do you like kind of get quiet and you meditate before you start a process, or how do you just kind of, how do you get to that point where you can listen to your kind of within rather than shut off the mind? You know.
I mean, I think to some extent, the shutting off the mind thing, I can always get stuck into a project and then get lost in it. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
And I meditate now. So I didn't used to meditate. So perhaps the fact that I do meditate helps.
Right.
But things like, for me, I love music. So I'll always put music on to paint to, because when the music's that, I'm then singing the song as opposed to thinking.
Right.
So I tune into a tune that lifts me, and that really helps. So I'm just enjoying myself, because I'm kind of dancing around the canvas. Always dancing around the canvas, just like putting all these paints down, and I paint on the floor. So, because I paint with very fluid paints.
Yes.
So I can't have an easel or anything. So it's a lot of space, and I make a lot of mess. And, and I'm by the end of it, my feet are normally covered in paint. My knees are covered in paint because I've been kneeling in it, and my hands are absolutely caked in paint by the end of it. So
oh my gosh,
it's quite a physical experience as well. It's it's great. I love it.
Oh my gosh, amazing. This is interesting, because during this whole pandemic, I've witnessed so many stories of transformation, because we do have these busy lives. And when we're busy, we don't stop and just kind of take that break. And in that break, so many beautiful things have emerged. And this seems like another example of just that, right? It seems like this process has really been one that has really kind of unfolded because of that quiet. And then tell me too, Kate, how you have then, because it seems like this convergence of, I've always kind of believed that, we always come into this life experience with a knowing of who we are and what we are to give to others. And it seemed that you've always known that your whole life, but haven't necessarily lived that your whole life. And it seems that you have returned to that now and seem kind of more in alignment with who you are. And it seems like so much joy is emerging because of that. And I find it fascinating how your work has now taken another kind of turn, right? I mean, tell me about the work that you are now doing as a result of all of this kind of connection and alignment for yourself and that abstract work. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so I follow Abraham Hicks, and I listen, and I'm very much involved in the groups on Facebook, and I really enjoy participating and everything else. And it struck me that there were some connections between creativity and getting into the vortex, into that place of high vibration, joy, happiness. And I think for me, it's very easy because I have that direct connection, and I'm able to do that at will. And I think for other people, it's more tricky. Mm-hmm. And I thought ages ago, that I really wanted to help people to really connect in that way and have that joyful, playful experience that I have. And I had considered kind of coaching, but then I realized how much I really enjoy the painting. But I love connecting with people. I really love connecting with people, and I'm an empath. So I pick up very easily on other people's feelings and emotions. And so for me, it's quite easy to tune into somebody else's energy. Mm-hmm. And I can stand next to somebody who's upset, and I can feel the tears in my eyes because they haven't said a word, but I can just know how they feel. Mm-hmm. So I had this idea that if I could help people to really tune into the energy of the thing that they want to manifest, and really really help them to find that space, to find those feelings and those emotions, and get in touch with them, and what they, sort of how they feel, where in the body, and how does it manifest, and how do they feel it, and just really try and tap into that energy that I could then translate that energy into a canvas that was very personal piece of art for that person. So I've just actually gone through this whole process with an amazing client called John, and he's just been so wonderful. And we've had several sessions. He's journaled. We've gone through them together. We've really connected, and what's come out of it has been an amazing experience for both of us. So, and when I showed him the painting, he actually cried when he saw it. He was so
so
in touch with
moved.
it,
Yeah.
and so moved by it, and he could see it straight away. You know, it meant something to him, and I wasn't really sure that he would have that reaction, but I was so pleased that he did. You know, it's kind of, I'm thinking, did I tune in well enough? Or and you know, clearly I did. But that whole experience, I think, for both of us was inspiring and lifting. And I mean, it's I call it co-creating. So I couldn't have made this piece without John.
Right.
His energy went into that piece,
Oh,
and that is so inspiring to me. You know, that is really a reason to paint. You know, that's a really kind of a purpose for
right.
me.
Right.
And to see the effect that the whole process has had on him, he actually said to me that he found it profound.
Wow.
And that's like the highest compliment. You know, I just to have really, he's made all these shifts, and he's seeing things differently, and then to have the painting is there as a kind of a trigger to
Right.
really, for that whole process to be cemented with this painting, and this trigger and this thing that will be on his wall that he will see every day,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
changing the energy in his environment as well. You know, I think that's a really big thing, is the energy between people, but also the energy in a space.
Yes. Yes. And that has a vibration that represents this process that you went through with him, right? And how
Right.
he has emerged in his own way through this process. So what an incredible transformation and evolution of your finding your light. It seems that you have returned to that place where you are in alignment with all the energy of the universe and
Mm-hmm.
all the gifts that you have, and your process seems not only to bring you great joy but also that it gives such joy, and joy is received and felt by the people that you're working with. And that's the ultimate representation of what shining your light is, because shining your light is about sharing your gift and spreading your own, unique brand of love with the world. And what a beautiful kind of symbol of that in action. So I just think that's just such a beautiful gift and your gift to the world. And I am so excited for the work that you will continue to do with this. And also the thing about our light and shining is it enables us to shine our light, but shining is all about connectedness and sharing it with others. And so this ability to now have him have this light and this joy, and then the work that he will now do, because when you shine your light, you trigger the light in other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's just amazing, amazing. And what an arc of your kind of story. And think about now landing in that place and all the joy that will be brought to the world because of it. And there's a saying I always love, which is, I think back to your parents and oh, you must select something that's sensible so you can pay the bills. And what I definitely know to be true is abundance only follows joy.
Yeah.
And when you are in that place of joy, abundance always follows. And so you are where you are to be, my friend. That's wonderful.
I know. That. took me a long time to work that one out, Mary, that the
Yeah.
abundance follows joy. I always got that the wrong way around. I always just worried about the money and put my joy to one side because I
Yeah.
didn't think I could have both, kind of thing. I don't know, but it is bizarre. And when I was on the call to John, my client, I said to him, I just love my job. I love it so much, and it just doesn't feel like work.
Oh my
When
gosh.
you're in that place, it doesn't feel like work. And to know that I could have such an influence and a positive effect on somebody else is just the best.
It
It's the
is.
best
Oh,
reward.
it's
That it's more reward than the money and everything else. That's the reward.
of
To see
course.
somebody else shine their light, like you said, when you can pass that on
Oh,
and help somebody else light their light, then it doesn't get any better than that, does
that's
it?
what it's all about. That
Yeah.
is what it is all about. That's fantastic. So, Kate, why don't you share with our listeners how they can connect with you if they want to learn more?
Sure. So I have a website with some of my work. It's katemayerart.com, but there is a contact form there and my details are on there.
Great.
Otherwise, I'm on Facebook and you can friend me on Facebook. I'm Kate Mayer London on Facebook.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's great. And I'll be sure to include all of that as well in the show notes. So, well, Kate, thank you so much for sharing your story and this process of awakening for you and finding your light and shining it so beautifully so it can light up the world. It's what it's all about. Thank you so much, Kate. I so appreciate you.
Thank you, Mary, and you too. I mean, you're doing an amazing thing that you're doing with this podcast, and I'm honored to be part of it. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's funny, isn't it? How we can suspend our joy thinking we're being responsible, thinking that money will bring it, only to discover that abundance only follows joy. What is your heart, that inner voice, telling you? Are you living in alignment with who you know you are to be? And now that you know that abundance only follows joy, what will you do? Here's to finding your joy and your shine. Thank you for joining me for this episode. Take it easy.